Okay, so here's the thing about Elder Scrolls Online that most people don't understand. It's not Skyrim Online. It never was. Elder Scrolls Online is what it would have looked like if Bethesda made a proper, massively multiplayer RPG instead of trying to recreate the single-player magic in a multiplayer world. And for 12 years, yes, this game has been running since 2014, it's been the overlooked MMORPG that actually understands what makes Elder Scrolls games tech. It had a rocky launch, sure, but here in 2026, after a complete content philosophy overhaul, a revamped seasonal model, and some genuinely exciting experimental features like naval combat and solo dungeons, Elder Scrolls Online isn't just surviving in the MMORPG space. It's proving that patience and listening to your community can turn a failed launch into something that rivals Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2 in terms of pure content depth. So stick around as I break down the current state of Elder Scrolls Online, what makes it worth your time, and why this update cycle might be the most exciting thing the game has ever done. Here's what separates Elder Scrolls Online from other MMOs. It takes its story seriously, like genuinely seriously. You're not creating a nameless blank slate hero. You're creating someone with their own journey. The main story revolves around an anchoring system called the Plane Melt, this reality-tearing catastrophe caused by Moloch Bal, a Daedric prince. Your job is to stop it. But unlike most MMOs, your class has its own narrative arc that feeds into that. Are you a Dragon Knight? You have a story about leadership and rebirth. Sorcerer? You're dealing with the consequences of pacting with Daedra. Nightblade? There's this whole Assassin's Guild thing. Each of the 7 classes, Dragon Knight, Sorcerer, Nightblade, Templar, Warden, Necromancer, and Arcanist, has its own unique questline woven into the world. This is how Elder Scrolls Online avoids the everyone's the chosen one problem. You all are, individually, but in different ways. Then there are the zones. Elder Scrolls Online has more handwritten, fully voice-acted content than almost any game ever made. Every zone has its own story. Vardenfell is Morrowind. Skyrim is Skyrim, but you're experiencing them 1,200 years before the single-player games. There are locations that feel authentic to Elder Scrolls lore while existing in their own right. Each zone is roughly 4 to 6 hours of content on your first playthrough if you stop to read and listen to dialogue. Some zones, like Blackreach and Greymoor, are masterpieces of environmental storytelling. Season 1, launching July 9th, 2026, is bringing new Thieves Guild content set in a revamped Glenramber zone, plus a 6-part questline with Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness. This is classic Elder Scrolls stuff, unhinged, chaotic, darkly funny. Sheogorath's quest is specifically described as increasingly unhinged and features things like flying cheese and dogs playing poker. If you've played Skyrim's Shivering Isles DLC, you know exactly what flavor that is, and it's fantastic. The voice acting is consistently good. The writing is genuinely funny when it wants to be, genuinely emotional when it needs to be. It's not AAA blockbuster quality, but it's far above what you'd expect from an MMO. NPCs have depth, side characters have arcs. You actually care about what happens to some of these people. Alright, let's talk mechanics, because this is where Elder Scrolls Online gets complex. The combat system is what's called action combat with ability bars. You've got a left bar and a right bar. You map abilities to your mouse buttons and hotkeys. Combat is about weaving light attacks between abilities. You cast a skill, light attack 3 times, cast another skill, light attack again. It's rhythmic. It requires positioning and reflexes. This is what separates Elder Scrolls Online from traditional MMOs, where you just press buttons and watch your character play the game. There are 7 classes: Dragon Knight, tanks and DPS, Sorcerer, range DPS and hybrid, Nightblade, stealth and burst DPS, Templar, healer and support, Warden, crowd control and hybrid, Necromancer, damage over time DPS, and Arcanist, newest class, pure damage. As of Update 49 in March 2026, all classes are receiving visual and mechanical reworks. The Dragon Knight just finished its major overhaul. Dragons, fire, crowd control. Warden comes in Season 1. Eventually, all classes will get the treatment. But here's the thing that makes Elder Scrolls Online special compared to other MMOs. You can hybrid classes. There's a subclassing system introduced not long ago, where you can mix skill lines from different classes into one character. Want a Nightblade with Templar healing skills? You can do that. Want Sorcerer damage with Dragon Knight crowd control? Go for it. It opens up absurd build possibilities. For example, Stamina Arcanist is currently the most overpowered damage dealer in the game because its beams just evaporate groups of enemies. It's ridiculous. But you can also play at a B tier and have fun. There are also 6 crafting trade skills: blacksmithing, clothing, woodworking, alchemy, provisioning, and enchanting. Crafting is meaningful. You need transmog stones and chromatic dust to make gear look the way you want, and these are farmed currency. Crafting isn't just a goal sink, it's integral to optimizing your character. Beyond combat, there's the companion system, NPCs who fight alongside you in dungeons and overland content. This directly leads into solo dungeons coming in Season 2, where you can tackle dungeons designed for solo play with your companion supporting you. No more dungeon finder waiting times, no more fake tanks, just you and your companion against the dungeon. This is a massive quality of life improvement because some of the dungeons have legitimately good stories, but LFG groups just speedrun them and you miss everything.
Okay, so you've hit level 50. Now what? Elder Scrolls Online's endgame is where things split into different paths, which is actually really healthy designed because not everyone wants the same experience. For PvE hardcore players, there are trials. These are 12-player group dungeons. They're DPS checks, positioning, coordination. The difficulty is tuned so that completing them on normal requires skill and communication. Veteran mode is substantially harder. Hard mode is for the absolute hardcore. And as of Season 1, there's the Crimson Veld, the first completely new base game trial in 12 years. This thing is set in Hircine's hunting grounds, the Daedric Prince's domain, and features a completely different aesthetic than typical forest trials. It's canyons and savannas, and it's getting a hard mode base pop feature, which means the trash encounters are just as challenging as the bosses. In traditional trials, you might struggle on boss fights but breeze through trash. This changes that. There are also veteran dungeons, which are 4-player instances that are absolutely brutal. Some of the most mechanically complex dungeon encounters in any MMO are in Elder Scrolls Online veteran dungeons. If you get a good group together, they're phenomenal. If you get a bad group, it's a nightmare because there's no difficulty scaling. Then there's the Infinite Archive, which is a roguelike wave-based combat experience. Waves of enemies, bosses, modifiers that change how you play. It's chaotic and fun and completely separate from traditional PvE. For solo players specifically, we're getting Moonhuntry Keep and March of Sacrifices as solo dungeons in Season 2. Both are werewolf-themed dungeons with difficulty options. New player housing, the Night's Den, is rewarded just for participating in Season 0's Night Market event. Housing is genuinely deep in this game. You can furnish and decorate your home with hundreds of items. For PvP, there's the Alliance War, massive battles in Cyrodiil where 3 factions fight for control of its own. It's chaotic. It's 60 for 60 sometimes. Performance tanks, but when it works, there's nothing else like it in gaming. There are also battlegrounds for smaller scale PvP, and a new veterancy progression system launching in Update 50 on June 8th. This basically creates a PvP exclusive progression track with cosmetic rewards like weapon skins, titles, and perks. The Arena, Maelstrom Arena, and Vateshran Holos is a solo trial-like experience with 11 waves of increasingly difficult enemies. It's tuning your build to perfection and executing flawlessly. It's incredibly satisfying when you finally clear.
ESO is a 2014 game running on the same engine. That's both a blessing and a curse. The engine is old. Character animations are stiff by 2026 standards. Cloth physics are basically non-existent. But the art design is phenomenal. Every zone looks visually distinct. Somerset is golden and ethereal, high elf territory. The Reach is mountainous and tribal. Elsewhere is jungles and deserts. Northern Elsewhere has this purple, bioluminescent and alien jungle vibe that's unlike anything else in the game. The environmental art is where Elder Scrolls Online shines. Dungeons are incredibly detailed. Trials look spectacular. As of Update 45 in March 2025, the starter zones Stros Mackay, Canarthy's Rest, Balfoyan, Betnik, and Wasterock got graphical modernizations. Lighting, textures, environmental details all updated to match the quality of newer zones. This brought base game starter areas up to the standard of DLC zones from years ago. The UI is functional but dated. Map is readable, inventory management works. But compared to Final Fantasy XVI's polish, it feels a bit clunky. There's depth of field options, TAA, SSGI, LSAO, HDR support on newer consoles. The developers are continuously updating the engine infrastructure behind the scenes without breaking existing content. On consoles, especially PS5 and Xbox Series X, the game runs smoothly, though large-scale PvP in Cyrodiil is known to cause performance issues. Honestly, the graphics aren't a selling point, but they're not a deal breaker either. The visual presentation serves the game's strong writing and design. That's more important.
Let me be honest about Elder Scrolls Online's weaknesses. It's an old game with an old engine. Animation quality lags behind modern games. The beginner experience can feel overwhelming. The community is welcoming, but can be elitist in endgame content. Performance in large-scale PvP is inconsistent. Some mechanics feel dated because they literally are. But here's what's happening in 2026. ZeniMax is swinging for the fences. Naval combat coming, solo dungeons, a return to Skyrim with dynamic blizzards that affect gameplay, class overhauls that are actually meaningful, not just number adjustments, an experimental mindset where they're willing to try things like the night market, a limited time event zone with heightened difficulty that might become permanent. This is how you save an aging MMO. You listen to your community, you create content faster through seasonal releases, and you're willing to experiment. Elder Scrolls Online isn't competing with WoW or Final Fantasy XIV by trying to be them. It's competing on depth, narrative quality, and the willingness to take risks. Is Elder Scrolls Online perfect? No. But in 2026, it's the most narratively rich, content-diverse Elder Scrolls experience you can have outside of Skyrim itself. It's where the Elder Scrolls universe lives between mainline releases. And with Elder Scrolls 6 still years away, Elder Scrolls Online is the Elder Scrolls story you're waiting for. If you like Elder Scrolls lore, if you want a narrative-focused MMO, if you want stellar writing and world building, or if you just want a massive game with more quests than you could complete in a year, Elder Scrolls Online is absolutely worth your time in 2026, especially coming to Game Pass. There's no reason not to try it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you've played Elder Scrolls Online, or if this makes you want to jump in. Hit subscribe for more game reviews and deep dives. See you in the next one.